Hi everyone, this is my October 2016 reading wrap-up. I had a pretty decent reading month, but unfortunately I didn't manage to read as many scary books as I was hoping, just because the whole borrowing things from the library just doesn't usually work out the way that you hope for. So unfortunately November might be the month where I read the scary books, but that's okay, I'm perfectly fine with it. So let's get right to it. The first book that I read is called The Nest, and I gave this book 2 stars. I was not a huge fan of it, and actually before I even went into it I had my suspicions that I might not enjoy this book at all, and I was pretty much very right about that. It's about a family, and it's primarily about a group of siblings. I think there's 4 of them, who are all sort of in their 30s and 40s, and their whole life they've been waiting for this nest, which is sort of their inheritance, that they're, sort of all banking on and sort of plotting their lives around it, and they have, they're just living their life very, sort of leisurely, if you will, knowing that they will always have something to fall back on, but then it turns out that because of one of their siblings, all their money is gone, and they don't really have the nest anymore, and, I guess it's just your typical one of the siblings is like the bad guy, and the rest of them are just very plain and boring. And overall, their whole interaction with one another and the whole plot of the book was just very primitive, and I just did not enjoy it at all. So yeah, I've heard good things about it. It's on like the Goodreads Choice nominee, and I certainly hope it doesn't win. The second book that I read is called Coraline, and I gave this book 3 stars. This was a very quick and easy read, and I really liked it. That was like the only Halloween sort of themed book that I managed to read. It was about a girl who discovers like a little passageway in her house into another reality where everyone is there, like her parents, but there's something very odd about them, and as it turns out it's quite sinister and a lot darker than it seems. So that was really interesting and fun, and I like the ending of this book, and I think it's definitely a great Halloween read, and now I would just be really curious to watch the movie and see how I liked it. The next book that I read is Catcher in the Rye, and I gave this book 4 stars. Before I started reading it, I was very worried that I would not enjoy it because I've heard mixed reviews about it, but I actually thought this book was incredibly funny, and I was like laughing out loud for a lot of it. I do have to say that the main character does have some issues, because I felt like he would just, one second he likes someone, the next second he like doesn't like them, and he just kept changing his mind a lot about everything. He was just a very troubled young man, pretty much. This book is about a teenager, I guess. He's 17 or something like that, and he gets kicked out of his private school that he goes to in Pennsylvania, I think, but he's originally from New York City, so he makes the trek back to the city, and he avoids his parents. He doesn't go home when he gets there because he's really scared of, them finding out that he's been kicked out, and then he's sort of just lives it up around the city, spending all his money and like staying in a hotel and just going to like bars and clubs and things like that. So it's like a very interesting book, and he just does a lot of questionable things, and he's planning to run away and just do all sorts of things. But in the end, I liked how it ended. I was very satisfied with it, and I think it's just a good book overall. It's not a very complicated read, so if you haven't read it yet and you've been like shying away from it for a while, I recommend it. I think it's pretty enjoyable. The next book that I read is called I Let You Go by Claire McIntosh, and I didn't really know what to expect from this book. Basically, a woman's son gets hit by a car and he dies, and then she decides to sort of escape her problems and just run off and relocate. That's what I read as the synopsis of the book, and I was like, okay, I can sort of read this and see. And I understand why the synopsis is that, because if you start knowing too much about the plot and what actually happens in the book, you sort of realize that that description of the book is not entirely accurate, but you don't really learn that until like the second half of the book, which is like when I was reading the first half of the book, it was very bland, and I was like this close to putting the book down and not even finishing it. So I was like on the fence. I was like, I don't know if I can read this. It's just nothing's happening here. But if you stick it out to the second half of the book where the narrative changes and then like bring in like other characters, it really spices things up. And like the second half of the book where like, I think it was part 2. I think the book was in 2 parts. But anyways, it completely changed, and I was like, it was very eye-opening, and there was like a whole other angle to this book that I had not, like, there hasn't been present in the first half. So I think that if you're interested in reading it, just if you're bored with it, just wait near the end. Like, I wish the whole book was like that. I would have enjoyed it immensely if it was like the same narrators were all there all along, but what can you do in the end? Like, the ending was good. I wasn't as satisfied with it as I would have been if like it had gone differently, but it was an alright read. The last book that I read was Results May Vary by Bethany Chase, and this one is about a woman who finds out that her husband has been having an affair with another man, and she then learns a bunch of other things that he's been hiding from her. I was kind of iffy about reading this book just because, I don't know, I feel like those types of books turn out to be very predictable and you sort of know how it ends. This one had a lot of twists and turns that I was sort of like not really sure where it was going to go, like what was going to happen with that, and I like the main character. I have to say that usually in these types of books the main character is like really annoying, or they do stuff that you just like don't personally agree with, but I felt like she reacted in a very natural way that anyone would, and like the things that she wanted to do and the way how she like felt about it, I could relate to, and I definitely like understood where she was coming from with everything that she did, so that was nice. I gave this book 3 stars. It was a good read. It's not a book that I would ever want to read again, but it was okay. I enjoyed it, and it didn't feel like it was dragging on or anything, so if you've been wanting to read that, I recommend it. So that's it for my October reading. Please let me know if you've read any of these books and what you thought, and also please let me know what you're reading right now. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.